Science and technology are relatively new parts of the Arizona economy, but they're not necessarily growth sectors.
Strictly science and technology, right around 6%, and that's okay. It used to be 8% though. Actually, it's down from where it was 15 years ago.
Arizona is doing its best to bring in more business.
What we need is a very favorable climate that allows our technology innovators to be able to innovate and to be able to have the right resources, the capital formation they need to be able to grow, the world-class talent in order to staff their companies appropriately, so that leads to new market growth in a global competitive economy.
Adding computers to the 5 C's that represent the state economy. This is Arizona Week. Hello and welcome to Arizona Week. I'm Christopher Conover in for Lorraine Rivera. Earlier this year, Governor Doug Ducey announced Apple was locating a new facility in Maricopa County. It will bring clean energy and jobs to the state, stirring up the still sluggish economy. Technology and science are often trumpeted as the future of Arizona's economy. Does that mean computers will become the newest C in Arizona's economic pillars? We sat down with economist Dennis Hoffman from the W.P. Carey School of Business at Arizona State University to discuss the tech economy. Thanks so much for sitting down with us to talk about the economy of science and technology. I think the easiest place to start with this is traditionally Arizona's economy was based on the 5 C's, but we're hearing more and more about science and technology. How big a sector is it in Arizona?
Not big, but not all that different from the United States, really. About 6% of the employment base would be in classified, kind of strict science and tech employment. The challenge here and the nuance is we have elements of technology in particular, to some degree science, but mostly technology, in a number of our kind of non-tech businesses. So it is a little bit to kind of get your arms around it, but strictly science and technology, right around 6%, and that's okay. It used to be 8% though. Actually, it's down from where it was 15 years ago.
Is there a reason why it's down over the last 15 years, as you just mentioned, or is this just one of those natural business cycle kind of things?
No, it's a secular trend. In Arizona, driven largely by the fact that globalization is eroding some of our high-tech manufacturing businesses. We also have been quite reliant on high technology manufacturing and aerospace defense, and most recently that's of course been slow to grow. Now on the flip side, we're working very hard at the universities, all of the universities, at the Commerce Authority, at GPEC. Certainly anybody that's in the economic development arena is working to try to land increasingly diverse science and technology employment opportunities. And the reason for that, by the way, is that they pay very well. I mean, that's really the magic there. If people puzzle why science and technology has the buzz that it has, it's the fact that they pay very good salaries.
When we look at economies and pay scale and things like that, as you said, it pays very well. Is it a good idea to try and move the economy more that way for Arizona, or should we stay the course with some of our more traditional things long term?
I think that Arizona needs to step up in the competitive arena where we try to compete for these higher margin, higher paying jobs, largely in science and technology in this particular case. It's a challenge, but I think if we expect to attract top talent and retain the top talent that's being educated in the state of Arizona. We need to nurture opportunities for more employment in these particular areas. And I think the imperative, by the way, today is much more than it has been traditionally in Arizona, because as many of us know, if you just look around, our traditional population growth serving businesses have been relatively slow to grow in the last 8 years or so, because people are not moving to this state in the numbers that they had prior to the real estate downturn.
You mentioned trying to attract more businesses. We saw the big one earlier this year that the governor announced very early in his term, Apple.
Right.
Are there things that Arizona needs to do that the state is not doing to get more companies like Apple in here? Or how do we compete against Silicon Valley, which isn't that far away?
Wow, that's quite a challenge. Competing against Silicon Valley is going to be a tall order, even though it's much more costly to do business over there. It is the place where innovative workers migrate to, are attracted to, and as a result, that's where the businesses locate. I think that it might be good to take a look at what's going on in Salt Lake, what's going on in Denver, what's going on in a number of the Texas cities, to think about competition among some of our Western neighbors and ramping up. I'm not saying that we do really poorly against some of those competitors, but I'm just suggesting that that is a reasonable competitor set for us to aspire to not only compete with, but excel against some of those neighbors. And I think we would see wage growth at a faster clip than we're currently seeing it, and we'll position the state to enable us to retain some of the top talent that's coming out of our universities.
As someone who works at a university and studies the economics, do you see the state doing anything that it shouldn't do to position itself better? And conversely, do you see the state doing anything that it should do, or do you see us doing things we should do at the same time?
We need to tell our story, and I think the governor, in working with the governor over the last couple of months, and his staff at least, I think that the staff is moving in a direction of trying to position Arizona where we tell our great stories, our stories about opportunity, stories about low costs of doing business in this particular state, a state that's positioned in terms of, say, natural disasters, where we don't have earthquakes, we don't have major floods, we don't have tornadoes, hurricanes, that kind of thing. So that businesses can be secure in operating in the state. And I think that we need to tell our positive story. I think that we actually have pockets of education assets at the universities and at some of our K-12 schools that are really very good. We probably need to step up in terms of our commitment in providing resources towards K-12 and the universities, so that we can A, improve them, and B, avoid sending the signal that we don't fund education in this state. And so part of this is real and tangible and associated with the quality of the education institutions. But if we cut funding to them, our competitors are positioned to use that news in competition against us. See, Arizona's cutting the universities again. You don't want to go there. They're cutting universities. We're investing in ours. That's a competitive argument that is being used against us.
When it comes to science and technology businesses, we have in southern Arizona various incubators. We find those around the country or around the state. Do those small companies eventually grow and really add to our economy, or do we need to concentrate as a state more on the Apples and big companies like that?
Right. That's a great question. I think that we need to concentrate on both of those efforts. We don't need to turn our backs on small 1 to 5 employee operations because they can grow, they have the potential to grow, because those smaller firms create an environment. They nurture this innovation environment and enable some of, especially our young people, to take advantage of this. I heard it characterized, by the way, by one of our business leaders a month or so ago, that if you take the 101 corridor, say in the East Valley, north-south, from North Scottsdale all the way down into Chandler, and you look primarily a mile or so west of that 101, you're finding a fairly intensive technology corridor that is being developed. That would include, say, the Air Park in Scottsdale, SkySong, the Intel operations in Chandler, that kind of thing. And we need to think about science and technology in kind of a broader sense. I think technology services in the form of education services, when you think about Arizona, people don't think about the fact that we probably have, in terms of education technology, some of the most innovative, thought-provoking technologies, and we're delivering to tens of thousands, if not now hundreds of thousands of students. And I'm talking the private sector folks at Grand Canyon and University of Phoenix. And of course, I'm talking about ASU's major online effort that is now going global, has partnerships with Starbucks, et cetera. The innovation around technology there in education technology could be a really important cluster that will bring some synergies to job growth in Arizona.
All right, well, Dr. Dennis Hoffman, thanks so much for sitting down with us.
It's great to be here.
In southern Arizona, the University of Arizona's Tech Park is helping to bolster tech companies big and small. The Tech Park's Bruce Wright explained how the facility functions in the larger economy. Bruce, thanks for coming in and sitting down with us. I think the easiest place to begin with this, in case people don't know what the Tech Park is what is the Tech Park?
Well, the Tech Park is a large research park that's owned and operated by the University of Arizona, and it really is a place where we're doing technology innovation and commercialization. And we sort of connect the university to industry in that pursuit, and we provide facilities, infrastructure, expertise, assistance to companies, whether they're startup or mature companies, in their pursuit of new technology.
You do have a lot of startups out there. Over the years, I've been out there for some one-person, two-person companies, and as you said, some larger ones also.
Well, we service companies throughout the development process. So we have early-stage startup companies, we have what we call emerging technology companies, and we have mature companies. And over the years, the last 10 years, we've helped to incubate about 95 new startup companies through what we call the Arizona Center for Innovation, which is our business incubator.
How do you help these companies? How do you get somebody's great idea, be it Apple Computer, started out in a garage and now it's the worldwide monolith that Apple is, but how do you get somebody going?
Well, with startups, there's a whole process first of just trying to discover the technology and understand that it has commercial application. And through the Tech Launch program here at the University of Arizona, there's a process by which we go through invention disclosure. Then we see whether it has commercial viability, does it need to be patented and licensed. And then we do a proof of concept to see whether it really has an application into a commercial product. And then at that point, we help the company with their business strategy, their business plan, putting together a management team around them, helping them with their product development, and ultimately introducing them to investors and then to the marketplace. So it's a very engaged, multi-dimensional process of assisting a new startup company through the business development process.
We hear from business leaders, civic leaders, politicians that we need more technology in our economy. How much, for example, is the Tech Park contributing to the Southern Arizona economy?
Really good question. So we have 45 companies out at the Tech Park. They employ about 6,500 people. They're contributing about $2.3 billion annually to the Pima County economy and about $3.1 billion overall to the state economy. So we're a major employment center and a major generator of economic activity and wealth in the region.
I was going to say, a lot of people were very happy to see Davis Monthan Air Force Base here in Tucson was contributing about $1 billion. You guys do more than double that.
And there's a reason for that. That's because the companies that are at the tech park are producing a product that's sold beyond the region, it's sold out in the world, and that then brings new capital, new revenue back into the community, and that's what creates that enormous economic impact. So the goal of any economic development strategy is to create prime industries, industries that are producing a product that are sold outside the region. And that's the kind of companies we have at the park.
You said you have 45 companies out there. Are these companies you have to go out and find, or are people knocking on your door trying to grow the sector?
Well, a little bit of both. The traditional economic development strategy is what I call the catcher mitt strategy, which is to have a big catcher mitt and wait for the site selectors and the real estate brokers and the companies that come and say, we want to be in your community. And that's an important part of economic development. That's the role that the Sun Corridor Trio plays in the Arizona Commerce Authority. We're out actively recruiting companies in the sense we're identifying companies in specific technology areas that are strong research areas for the university and using that as a magnet to try to recruit those companies to put a presence here in Tucson. So we're responding to the site selectors, we're trying to recruit companies, and then we're also growing startup companies here at the local level.
How do you convince a company to come in? Because everybody in every state wants technology. It's high dollar jobs. How do you convince them to come to Tucson or to Arizona?
So you have to offer them a real value proposition. And if you look at companies, there's 4 or 5 things they want. First of all, they're looking for market access. We sit between the big economies of Texas and California. We're part of the Intermountain West, which is the fastest growing region in the U.S., and we have access and connectivity to Mexico, which is a fast growing economy. So market access is one. Secondly, they want skilled or qualified employees. So having a major research university, a strong community college system, and a good workforce development program is very helpful to us. Then they're looking for assistance with product development, and that's where we're really focused in 6 or 7 key technology areas where the university has world-class research strength, and we can help the companies with that product development. And finally, you're trying to provide them the kind of business assistance and facilities and expertise and assistance that they need. So it's a combination of all those kinds of things. We're do very well in certain technology areas of attracting companies. In other areas, we're not competitive. For instance, it's really hard for us to compete with Silicon Valley or Manhattan in software development. But in medical devices or in security technology or in mining technology or water technology, we have natural advantages that give us a strategic and competitive position.
The tech park has been around for a while. Has the business part of this, the recruiting of companies or what companies are looking for, changed over time, or is it still basically the same thing?
It's changed very dramatically, and we just rolled out about 18 months ago a whole new business attraction strategy, which we call Global Advantage, where we're out trying to identify small, mid-sized companies that have fast growth potential, have a product, have revenue, but need assistance in one of the areas that I've talked about. We're trying to recruit those into the park. We're having to go out and engage with them. So we're in a place like Israel, which is a hotbed of startup activity, saying, bring your company to Tucson, we can help you. It's a very different process and business these days of business attraction. As you say, the competition is fierce.
Money, of course, is always a big issue, especially in a startup. We have the Angels here in southern Arizona. Do they play a lot into getting companies in, and is that someone you work with, or at least get the startups involved with, introductions?
Well, the Desert Angels play a critical role in helping with financing and investing in startup companies. But the missing gap for us is if we're trying to attract these already existing small, mid-sized companies, do they have the capital to come into the region and establish a business here? So we're in the process of putting together a financing or an investment strategy where we can do private placements to encourage these companies to come into the region. And we're finding affinity groups, basically, that have an interest, say, groups that are interested in Israel or interested in renewable energy, that are willing to come in and make an investment in these companies if they put their place of business at the tech park.
All right. Well, thanks for sitting down with us for a couple minutes and talking about the tech park.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Bringing tech companies to Arizona and helping startups is a job that falls to a number of groups, including the Arizona Technology Council. Alex Rodriguez joined us to explain the council's role in the tech economy. Alex, thanks for coming in and sitting down with us. Before we really get into the topic, let's explain for the viewers, what is the Arizona Tech Council?
Sure, Christopher. The Arizona Technology Council is the premier trade association for the science, technology, and innovation sectors of Arizona's economy. We are a member-driven organization with well over 800 members now, operating statewide. Our board set vision is to help convert Arizona's economy as the fastest growing tech hub in the nation.
You said you have over 800 members, obviously small companies and large companies, I would assume.
Yes, it's very interesting. All the large companies you would expect to be members, whether they're manufacturers or prime contractors or innovators, but the vast majority of our members are small and mid-sized businesses. So we are very much reflective of Arizona's economy.
Let's talk about what you all are looking forward to. We're about halfway through 2016, but it's just the start of a new fiscal year for both the government and a lot of companies. What are some of the priorities as we move forward into 16?
Well, first of all, this is a very important summer for us. There's so much work that we're working on now in preparation for the 2016 calendar and fiscal and legislative year. We are currently working on the public policy priorities that are set by our members and our public policy committee that will help champion better policies, better legislative outcomes that help encourage economic growth and ultimately for us, greater faster member growth overall. Whether it's revenue growth and new job creation or professional development for its employees. Across the board, we're working hard to help champion our membership.
You mentioned things government can do to help your membership. What are some of the things, be it big companies or small companies, need from state, local, maybe even federal government to help them grow and move forward?
Well, as you know, we're part of a broader ecosystem in the state, and so what we need is a very favorable climate that allows our technology innovators to be able to innovate and to be able to have the right resources, the capital formation they need to be able to grow, the world-class talent in order to staff their companies appropriately so that leads to new market growth in a global competitive economy.
Groups like the Flynn Foundation have put together the biotech roadmap. The Arizona Commerce Authority does a lot with science and technology. I assume you all work hand in hand.
We do. We have a very close partnership with both the Arizona Commerce Authority as well as with many foundations across the state, including the universities. And our goal is to align opportunities for growth, to be able to accelerate the process of supporting our members, first of all, for them to grow economically and for the state to be more successful as we come out of the economic recovery. And what we're witnessing is the health of the tech sector is actually looking pretty good. There are pockets of fantastic growth and opportunities that we're witnessing now, and yet there still are quite a few challenges that we're tackling.
Do we see differences in the health of the sector between, say, Maricopa County and southern Arizona, Pima County, and even northern Arizona, the Flagstaff area? Do they have different personalities?
Sure. Each community has their own sort of flavor and personality, and certainly depending on the strengths and the businesses that operate in those particular regions, we tend to focus on what the needs are at the local level. But statewide, the tech sector is doing very well. We clearly have big challenges in terms of attracting world-class talent in examples, for example, in engineering requirements, in information technology. That's a huge gap in the state, and it's something that we need to change if we're going to compete better.
When you say it's a huge gap, is it something the universities need to do, or is it something that the private sector needs to do?
It's both. It goes back to the alignment question from your earlier point, and that's why we work with so many of our partners. It's education and workforce development, really from the K-12 level all the way through the university system. Across the board, that creates the workforce talent pool that our members can draw from. And frankly, right now we're seeing big gaps in information technology in certain disciplines within engineering, and that leaves us at a competitive disadvantage as we compete with other regions of the country and certainly other countries in the world.
Is that our big disadvantage, or are there other disadvantages when we try and compete with California, Texas, New Mexico, Colorado are neighbors.
Yes, I would say capital formation clearly is a big gap for us. It's something that's crucial for Arizona to be able to attract more investment in Arizona-based companies and in the startup space that will create the future Intels, the future Infusionsoft, which is a very exciting company in the Phoenix area, or here in Tucson with Worldview Experience. There's so many excellent examples of companies that are at the frontier, the cutting edge of their industry sector globally, operating out of Arizona. But again, it goes back to the question where an individual engineer will make a decision to relocate to often depends on the climate, often depends on what they are offered as well. And that goes back to capital formation being so important as a tool to attract better talent.
Coming up is the Southern Arizona Tech and Business Expo. Is that an attempt to get people into the industry or get the industry into Southern Arizona?
Actually, it's to help catalyze economic activity and revenue growth for our manufacturing base statewide. It happens that it's going to be in Oro Valley this year, here in Tucson. And the whole idea behind it is to connect technology with manufacturing. What are the different and new innovative strategies that our companies can employ? For example, 3D printing is a transformational opportunity for manufacturers. Additive manufacturing is very, very important. So we hope to disseminate a lot more high-value content and information for this sector.
It seems like in this sector we have a couple of big players that everybody knows about. We just got the Apple facility, or earlier this year, Amazon has facilities up in Maricopa County. But in Southern Arizona, we have a big biotech, some big medical companies. People may not realize how many companies, that there are 800 companies, as you said, that do this in Arizona.
Yes, exactly. You know, there are strengths, again, geographically, in various sectors of the economy. Certainly in Southern Arizona, biotech is a growing space. And by the same token, we're very proud of the larger companies that are well known to all of us, like the ones you mentioned. But in Tucson, I characterize it as the changing nature of Tucson's economy, where technology is the real reason for innovation and economic growth in the region. And it's happening on a statewide level.
All right, well, Alex, thanks so much for coming in and sitting down with us for a couple minutes and talking about the tech sector as a whole and also the Arizona Technology Council.
It's our privilege, Christopher. Thank you.
And that is our program for this week. Next week, we'll take a look at wildfire recovery years later. I'm Christopher Conover. Thanks for tuning in.